Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Choose One podcast. This is Brendan, your host for the show. Joining me to look back on the frustrating 1-1 draw with Southampton and look ahead to the game against Watford coming up in the next few days. First up is HG. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm doing well. My daughter is on a sleepover, so yes, I can be as loud as I want. Life is all right. It's the small things. Obviously, it's the small things, but I'm doing well. How are you?
What shirt? What is that? Is that an Austria shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, Austria. Oh, this side. It always confuses me. This side.
Looking good,
It
man.
doesn't
Looking
have
good.
Vimmer on the back. It should have Vimmer on the back, but it doesn't.
Well, here's our most famous Austrian. And speaking of famous Spurs fans, we have John. How you doing, mate?
I'm not sure I'm famous, but thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm glad we're here. And honestly, it's not HG's fault we're late tonight. It was HG, not callers, sorry. It was HG's again. 2 in a row, HG.
We're all designer late. You know, to be on time just means you're unpopular. You're just desperate for success. Why would anyone be on time? You've got to be late these days.
Fair enough.
Only a couple of minutes. Also joining us for the first time is Marcus, one of our beloved patrons. Marcus, thank you for joining the Choose Room. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good. I had a decent Christmas, pretty chilled out. Apart from a frustrating draw, can't really complain too much, really.
Yeah, we are going to pick apart the frustration at St Mary's. It was I podded straight after, and I had Paul Muir and Seb Short on the pod, and all of us were trying to be pragmatic, trying to be relaxed about it, but it was incredibly frustrating. But let's crack on and make sure that we have a really good, enjoyable YouTube tonight. Let's crack into the game though to review the game. HG, as normal with the podcast, we look at the lineup. We saw that Winks had come in. And there were 3 changes, I think, from the win against Crystal Palace. Were you okay with the lineup? How did you feel when you saw that lineup? Did you understand the changes? Did you think that it was a reaction? We saw Davies come in as well. Tanganga was left out. How did you feel when you saw the lineup?
I'm happy with us to rotate. I don't mind the idea of it. And 2 days after the last game, you have to rotate a couple of players. I think we all expected it. I think we all thought Davies would come back because he didn't play against Palace. So the question was, if Winks comes in, who's he come in for? Perhaps we were a bit surprised it was Skip that was left out instead of Højbjerg. But I can't get too upset with rotation when that's how good teams work. That's how they're successful. So I wasn't too upset. No.
John, when you saw the lineup, how did you feel? Like we looked at Skip as a possible weakness, but he had probably one of his best games in the Spurs shirt. Were you happy when you looked at the lineup against Southampton, and were you confident going into the game?
I saw it leaked a couple of hours before the game that the midfield was going to be Dele, Højbjerg and Winks, and I was worried, to be honest. I know that Dele didn't necessarily play in the middle; he played more as the attacking player. But I was a little bit worried. Skip he's a key player for us now. He really is. Højbjerg hasn't been the same for a long time. He's been worked too hard. Mourinho didn't give him a game off, did he? Even when we played in the Europa League last season, he would have to come off the bench to help us get out of trouble. And he's not been the same probably since Christmas last year. So relying on him, Dele obviously had one good game against Liverpool and was very good. And Winks, the new Pirlo, just to upset caller. I wasn't too bothered about it, but I would have preferred seeing Skip and Winks, to be honest, than Højbjerg.
Marcus, we saw Dele come in for Lucas, and Lucas obviously had a great game against Palace. So were you surprised to see that rotation there, or were you confident enough to see Dele come in and think he would do a good job? In hindsight, he didn't have the best of games.
Yes, so I'm a big fan of Dele, and I'd like to see him get a run of games. And so I think kind of building up to the game, I actually sort of messaged my dad to sort of kind of ask a little bit like whether this is coming close to or like our starting first 11. I know like obviously Skip should definitely be in there, and Moura's been on great form, and you could interchange him with Dele Alli. But I do like the formation, and I think it works well against Liverpool, and I think it does. it's a more attacking formation, I think, and it suits us better than 3-4-3. So I was pretty hopeful, but yeah, it didn't really work out the way that I'd kind of hoped. And I think, I agree with John. I think Pierre, again, I think maybe didn't really contribute that much to the game, and I think that kind of stifled us a little bit. But yeah, liked a bit more from Dele Alli, but I don't think he was too bad. I think he did put in a shift. It just didn't really the team just didn't perform as well as they did in the last few weeks.
Well, HC, on the Southampton goal, Dele was probably the closest player to James Ward-Prowse when he hit it. And I was like, as you know, with the podcast and with the YouTubes, we don't want to have to criticize someone for the goal. If it's a great goal.
Are you sure? I don't listen to the pods, but I'm pretty certain that there's always a go, isn't there? So, Dele was the only one trying to close him. I didn't see anyone else really making an effort. I don't blame Dele for Ward-Prowse hitting a great shot. I mean, I'm upset that he hit a great shot because he did nothing for the rest of the game. But sometimes they go in, and weirdly enough, Spurs midfielders don't take those pot shots. I think that's the biggest thing I can take from it. Our midfielders, when was the last time we had a central midfielder that actually scored from outside the box with any regularity? No one. I mean, Dombele, chipped in last season with a few, but they weren't really shots from distance. I mean, I think we've seen tonight Man United for them. Like, other teams seem to do it, but seem to have midfielders that can score. So that's the frustrating thing. The fact that other teams seem to be willing to take pot shots and to try and test the keeper, and if they get it on target like Ward-Prowse did, there's a decent chance when it goes through a group of players, it's going to go in.
That was the thing, John, for me, watching the goal go in. It bizarrely, I don't know why, I thought this goal, it reminded me of Lamella's Rabona against the Gunners, where he kind of hit it, and it hit that line where it went through a sea of defenders, and no one could get a touch. It was the only place he could hit it. And that's kind of how I felt with James Ward-Prowse. You can look at Dele and think, well, he may have stuck out a leg a bit more firmly to block the shot. But when you got James Ward-Prowse hitting it like that, they call it the tres dedos, like 3 toes, that sometimes you're like, well, that's the only place he could have hit it, and it would have gone in.
Can I just say, that's you should always use 3-toe hit. Is that really over there, Brendan? That's cool. Sorry, Marcus. Yeah. But I think that's a really, really great phrase.
Is there not a German version then, HG? Or a Dutch version? There must be a Dutch version somehow.
Yeah. Thank. Touch a ball is but not 3-toe. I don't know what I loved that. When they talk about your swinger, your weaker leg, say your chocolate. I think that's great. But Marcus,
you're dipping in and out again, HG, with the internet. Maybe trying, But Marcus, on their goal, do you think that we could have done more, or were you just like, well, it's Ward-Prowse, he can spank him like that. Let's let him have it.
Yeah, I think I think the pressure was building for a while. But I think individually, he's probably not a huge man that could have done. I think the ball was just into sort of difficult area. Nobody could really get close to it. And I think Dele did sprint out there and try and get out to it. But I think the angle from behind the net showed it perfectly. It was almost impossible for that ball to kind of make its way into the back of the net, but it did. And I think it's similar thing probably to that Lanzini goal against West Ham. Sometimes it's just not much you can do, really.
Yeah, it was frustrating. But we responded, John, and we got the goal back. Let's talk us through your thoughts on the penalty and the sending off. It looked pretty clear cut to me. We didn't get much of the rub of the green, and we'll go on to the decisions from the ref and VAR later on. But this looked like one where they actually did their job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a very, very good ball from Winks to start off with. That ball was on a few times, and there was a little gap between They obviously did try to match us up with 3 at the back, didn't they? There was a gap between the middle centre-back and the left centre-back, and even the wing-back on a few occasions. This is the first time we managed to get through properly. 3 or 4 times they tried it, and it just got intercepted at the last minute. Lovely ball. Son gets away. I don't think Son thinks he's going to score. He knows he's going to draw the challenge in from Salusu, is it? Who probably had. I know Seb mentioned on the pod he had 4 or 5 challenges, and he was due a second yellow. And I was a bit baffled that some of the TV punditry suggested the first one shouldn't have been because it was a handball by Emerson. And I mean, the guy actually clattered him out, didn't he? It was just bizarre. But he was a red card waiting to happen ultimately. But definitely a penalty. And even though it was a long, long wait, you always knew Kane was going to stick it in the corner. I can't remember the last time I've ever been so confident about a player scoring penalties for Spurs. Even when it was Lineker, Klinsmann. Keane was very good, but I remember him missing a couple. Berber, I guess, is the last one.
I love that Forster went the wrong way. Like, that Kane's always going to go to the goalie's right every time. And he went to the left. It's like, come on, man. But yeah, hey, CG, if you want to pull up some comments, I'm kind of just flying off the cuff here, but we
okay
on Davies' goal. Do you want to go in then, HC?
I just think that this one here, like designated to Mark Ward-Prowse, yeah, possibly, but I mean, you don't often see people defending on the edge of the 8 box an opponent who's also standing there. Like usually, people are somewhere between where they were all lined up in a row and the people that are waiting on the edge of the 18-yard box. But if you were just mark man for man from a throw-in, then the attacking team would just leave a bunch of people on the edge of the 18-yard box, and then you'd have a much easier chance of winning the header. So I don't know about that, but I mean, clearly people are upset about the goal going in because we hadn't played well. Southampton hadn't really created anything, I don't think, before that. Even after that, they didn't do much to test Hugo. They were just pressing high, and we were struggling to deal with it. But I mean, as John said, like there were plenty of times in that first half that the ball behind the back was on. Right, and we tried it a few times. I think Kane saw Son going through once and overhit it straight to Forster, but the ball was on, and it could easily have been like the game last season, where Southampton started well, they got the early goal, and we tore them to shreds because they never dealt with that. They always played a high line, and we just always managed to get it behind them. And Son scored 4 that game. It was just a case of the passing that day was better. And unfortunately, the chances that we had in the first half, especially to get behind the back line, we just didn't take advantage of. So yeah, it's a strange one. But when you look back at a 1-1, you're going to try and find some way to blame for their goal. But I think in theory, it was just a very good hit. Whether it was 3 toes or 4 toes or 10 toes, it found the bottom corner, and that's what you want.
Well, one thing that with the lineup, with the selection that we knew, as you said, we knew that Southampton would play a high line. So why not play our pacey forwards in Son and Lucas? It didn't make sense to play Dele with his tricks and flicks. Surely, knowing how high, because they were playing a high line, you could see it in certain situations during the game that Southampton were pushing forward when they could. So it just didn't make sense to us for us not to have the pacey player to then there's the question, who plays those passes? Does Kane drop back and play those passes to Son and Lucas?
Oh, Brent, you're breaking up, mate.
It to me, it just felt like an opportunity missed. It didn't really matter in the end.
Oh, unfortunately, we lost you there, Brent. Brent, have you gone?
I think you might have gone now.
We're back.
Okay, do you want to pull up another comment? Oh, there he is. Hi, Brent. We lost you for about a minute there.
We got most of what you were saying. It was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, like David Harris comes in here. Maybe we should, if we didn't.
Oh, and now HC's gone. Just for you and me, Marcus. So I think with Davo's comment there, Hill hasn't played for a few weeks, has he? He's been out for a while. Yeah. We think he might have had COVID. I mean, I can't remember the last game he was involved in. Was it? I think it was Mura away, which was probably 5 weeks away, 5 weeks ago. So you couldn't start with him, but he definitely should have come on the left and not on the right, which was a bizarre decision by Conte.
Do we know what happened with Bergwijn? Because I don't know why he wasn't available, why he wasn't in the squad.
I just read he was injured.
Okay, because that's a weird one in itself. right? That
Oh,
Bergwijn's
oh.
injured because I guess it happened in training. I don't know too much
Let me have
about
a
it,
look.
but he
So
would
was
have
he
been
not even on the bench at all? He was completely
no,
out.
Bergwijn wasn't on the bench
Okay,
at all.
fair enough.
So
Yeah, that makes a bit of sense then.
it does seem that Bergwijn would have been the obvious choice, and I think that's what Conte would have done had he been available. But yeah, it's easy to look back now. Like we think about the game last season. Was it? I mean, were Son and Kane the only two up front that day? I still think that playing the two up top together gives you a slightly different dynamic than having three, because if you do have a third, then the positions are a bit more rigid. When you're only playing two, you can kind of go wherever you want. You can't really ask that from a front three because then they may all make the same runs. So look, I don't think it suited Spurs at all in the first half. But you have to give Southampton credit because they challenged for every ball. They were that hard-working but limited team that Spurs have had issues against, and they got a half chance and they scored from it. But once Spurs went in 1-1, I mean, we were man up. It's level. You'd expect Spurs to then change things around and really go for the jugular, and that to me is what we got wrong more than anything. Not the first half; it was the second half that was much more of a problem.
So you're not to blame. You're not blaming the decisions from the referee and VAR. The first of which we'll get onto now. So we had Kane's goal. They got out of the line spot, and were under the impression that the double lines weren't to be used when deciding on a VAR decision, when deciding on an offside decision. It'd be one line and that's it. I don't know what the rules are anymore. That did not look offside. They were using Kane's armpit as to be offside. But even then, when they got the lines out, the double lines, the little lines, it didn't look like he was offside. John, help me make sense of it all, because it seems to have been ignored by the media.
So I read today that apparently they're using the Premier League logo on the arm as their line, conveniently. But it's a bit bizarre because it doesn't quite match up with what happened with Phil Foden last night, does it? Which is a very, very similar situation. I think they made the balls up. I think definitely. Who's the referee? Mike Riley. He's a referee chief, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm sure he said at the beginning of the season, if it's that close, we're just going to go with the on-field decision, or we're going to allow the goal. It was one of the two. But the on-field decision was to not put the flag up, which is the right thing to do because they're not supposed to put the flag up if they think it's tight. So I guess you give the advantage to the attackers. But ultimately, it should have been given. But the only thing I will say, caveat, can we not go on too much because we're starting to sound like those Scousers going on about the foul.
But Marcus, help me out here. Like looking at it, it didn't even look to the naked eye. It didn't look offside. Like you bring in the technology, everything. But even then, when they brought the lines out, it didn't look offside.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess when I first looked at it, I was, just didn't think it was offside. I think I was kind of mainly focusing on the feet and trying to, match the feet to the cuttings in the grass. But I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I've kind of sort of stopped. I think sort of like we're going to get some of them go away and some not go away, and I've kind of like left it at that. Really, I think it's going to be hard to get, actual consistency between different referees and stuff like that. And it's really annoying. Like it ruined it didn't ruin, but like hurt my fantasy team as well with Kane as captain. But yeah, like it's.
Can I just
kind of given up on it?
Can I just say at this point, Marcus has overtaken Davo at the top of the fantasy league, which is why I asked him to come on tonight, just to rub it in for Davo.
Yeah.
Hey, come on. What's your take on that fiasco? That was not offside.
No, it's not offside. I mean, I'm not moaning. It's not offside, right? The idea being, if I need lines to tell if someone is offside, they are not offside. It really should be that simple. Like having lines is no different to me than having Hawkeye in tennis. Like it doesn't always get it right. It exists and people are okay with it, but you can look at camera angles and naked eye and it doesn't seem to work. We saw last year with 2 seasons ago with the goal that wasn't given, that should have been given, that kept Aston Villa up, like because the technology wasn't working. Like at some point, You just have to say, look, if I can't tell with my naked eye on a replay, then he's onside. I don't need 2 or 3 different replays or 2 or 3 different camera angles to figure it out. If it's not obvious, he's not offside. And there have been plenty of times where it has been obvious, and you don't need to draw the lines, right? You just look for it. You replay it once, you see, okay, bad decision was made, and that's that. So, like, I'm upset at Martin Atkinson more than I am at the rules. But the rules need to be changed because, as they are now, it basically says the referee, who doesn't have to explain himself, can make whatever decision he wants, whenever he wants. And maybe he's weird, like, because he's working for the Premier League, right? These referees work for the Premier League. Of course, we all know, and they probably know, that if we go 2-1 up with 35 minutes to go, game's over. Southampton probably aren't going to come back from that. If they are going to try and come back from that, then we'll just play on the counter and steamroller them like we did last season. So, like, there is this idea of, like, if I want to create drama, then, yeah, maybe it is more dramatic that Spurs have another 35 minutes to try and get the goal that we've just denied them. But it's like that would be the only kind of reasonable and still awful, but reasonable explanation for what he did. Otherwise, it's just cheating.
That's quite conspiratorial. That's kind of what Seb was saying, and what Paul was saying on the pod last night, was that they create these scenarios for us to talk about it. Here we are on a podcast, on a YouTube broadcast, talking about decisions, and it makes the Premier League the best league in the world. But surely fact should be the dividing factor here. John, help me out. Like, I struggle to see how the drama caused by the addition of the technology, the addition of these scenarios, improves the game.
I mean, it does get talked about a lot more. There is that point. I think Seb said on the pod about how the fact, rugby and cricket got it spot on, and why are we not matching that? Rugby got it in 2001. They've had it for 20 years. Cricket got DRS in 2008, and they're still having little niggly calls on it now. We've had VAR for 4 years now in various countries. We've had it for, this is our second season. I've lost track now. This is second season or third season? Third season. Yeah. So we're going to still have these niggly things that they've got to iron out. One of the things I don't like is the fact that for some reason we're still sticking to slightly different rules to the rest of the world. Why is it not uniformed everywhere? Why can they not just come up, this is the situation? And HG's right. If it takes more than just a few seconds to go bang, that's onside or offside, why is it? It should just be allowed. It should be a goal. And we'll come to that a bit more with the other disallowed goal, I think.
Well, Marcus, your thoughts. HG, if you want to help me out with putting up some comments. Marcus, your thoughts on the Kane disallowed goal and VAR in general.
Yeah, so so I should probably bring this up now. Like, I actually work for Hawkeye, not in football or VAR department. So I can't really talk too much about it. But as a general opinion on VAR, like, I think John made a good point. It's that it's a developing product and technology, and it's it's only going better. I think, like, referees implement it, how they implement it. There's always going to be inconsistencies with referees, and I think even if you do have kind of, say, common sense sort of rules about how how many seconds it takes to decide it, you've always got to have a line somewhere. And so whether the line's as tight as it was for the Harry Kane decision, or whether it's that common sense rule, there's always going to be a line somewhere, and somebody's going to have to decide which side of it is.
Very, very diplomatic, very diplomatic. And yeah. I'm with you. And so it moves swiftly on to the next talking point. I go to HG. Forster's own goal. And this is the question of the use of the technology. It's not so much the technology, because we could see there was no foul. We could see that was a legitimate goal. But the fact that VAR can only review goals that have been given and not goals that have been disallowed to sort of circumvent the ref, that was a clear goal. There was no foul on Forster. Doherty jumped and was jumped into. There was a defender in between him and the goalkeeper, yet it was still disallowed. And I'm a goalkeeper myself a long time ago, but it struck me as incredible, just complete misunderstanding of the rules.
Look, I understand that they don't want to use VAR for every single decision, right? Of course you don't. You don't want to use it for a throw-in or for a corner. We've seen it being used for sendings off, and Kane got away with one maybe against Liverpool. I don't think that was a sending off either. But you know what I mean? Like they're using it, but goals are the only currency in games that really matter. Like red cards obviously can change things, but goals, like that's what ends up on the table at the end of the season. And we were denied 3 points because of them A, using it wrongly, and then B, not using it when they could have. At some point, you have to decide, right, this is when we're going to use it. And goals, whether it's ones that have been disallowed erroneously or ones that have been allowed erroneously, like that's when you use it. I don't want to see it on every decision. Nobody does. But again, it doesn't take long to figure out that, like, Doherty didn't jump into Forster. It's frustrating that we're spending far too much time talking about it. And maybe that's what they want. But do they really want the entire world to think that they're idiots? Because that's what we've decided, and that's what anyone who watched the game, like even flipping, what's his name, Andy Gray and Richard Keys, even they could see, that it was a terrible decision for football. And if they can see it, then surely that says everything.
Well, Bren, if I can just go on this, what I don't understand is there's obviously there's a crowd of players there, aren't there? There's a number of players there. The referee may not have had a clear line of sight. So why can VAR just not go to him? Go and look at the monitor. Because if the referee had seen the monitor, he probably would have said, that's a goal. He didn't need to blow the whistle instantly.
He would have.
It took what? It took seconds. It took half a second for the ball to be in the back of the net off Foster's heel.
But
so surely he could have looked at it and gone, that's a goal.
The comment from Adrian that I just had up, right? Saying that the referee blew for the foul, so VAR couldn't do it. Right. So if the referee is in charge, then let's do away with VAR, right? Let's just do away with it, because the VAR ref is the one that decided that Kane's goal wouldn't count, not the ref, the VAR ref. So if you can't decide who's in charge, you either work as a team, and if they worked as a team, then they would probably figure out the right decisions in both cases. I want to believe that, but the idea of saying that the referee blew his whistle, so we can't change it. But the referees are wrong. That's why we have the system, because they make mistakes. So it's madness.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point, isn't it? So I think a lot of it comes down to protocol and processes, doesn't it? So I think the same way that we now play on after an offside to see if they score the goal, I think actually what you need in that situation is the referee not to blow his whistle until the play plays out, and then he can say, okay, let's have a look at it at VAR. And I think that removes the stigma of having to overturn your referee mate. It's just have made a decision, let's see what happens, and then you can sort of look at it from that point of view, just like let's get to the truth rather than I'm gonna have to tell you to overturn this. And I think that's where sure. Okay.
Sorry, the trouble you get then is you get instances where, say, a player goes through one-on-one with the keeper and gets badly injured, and that's the one that people always bring up, isn't it? So that player wouldn't have been injured if they raised the offside flag. So whatever you do, you're sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, to a certain degree. But I do take your point. It's a very good point.
Yeah, and that's it. I think there's always trade-offs, isn't there? But I think again, if we want to incentivize goals, I think it's a small enough sort of trade-off that's better for the good of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not a massive change that anyone is asking for. I mean, I've seen bad VAR decisions in German football. I've seen it all over. It still happens. Yeah. But the idea being is that if it happens, you can tweak things. Weirdly enough, I think German football had VAR for a season before we started with it, right? Now, but the UK England didn't look at what had happened in Germany and think we're going to start from that point. They just started from their own viewpoint. I mean, it's so insular. The idea that football is an English game and our product is somehow different to everyone else, it makes no sense. We play European club football, international football. We are so used to seeing these different styles. Referees will manage in Champions League games, it's not as if it's a completely different idea. It's not rugby league and rugby union. It's just football. So it blows my mind to think that they still haven't figured out what's working. And I mean, as John said, Mike Riley came out at the start of the season and said, we realise that these toenail, decisions are not good for the game, are making the game worse. We're going to do away with them. And everyone thought, great, because, I don't want to see goals denied, even against Spurs. I don't want to see goals denied because of a toenail. It might be funny at the time, but I don't want to see that. Like, they deserve that just as much as we would. Then just follow your own protocol. The fact that Atkinson didn't means that he should be punished. He won't be, but he really should be. And I can't remember where I saw it, but Martin Atkinson has had beef, and certainly with one other ref. You know how refs are these kind of egotistical, that it's weird how they get portrayed in various documentaries about them actually wanting to outdo each other. Martin Atkinson is known. You've got the Atkinson crew on one side, and it might be Mike Dean and his group on the other. I can't remember who it is, but you just think, what the heck? Like, it's almost like politicians. Your job is to serve us. Like, we're not there to watch you, referees. We don't care. Like, you're there to make sure the rules are actually used correctly. And when you're not doing that, then you sling your hook. Sack him. He's old anyway. Martin Atkinson must be in his 50s. Like, Mike Dean's been a professional football in the Premier referee in the Premier League for 20 years now. It's time. Like, they need to just go. If I know the referee's hometown, they've been a referee for too long. If I know that Mike Dean supports Tranmere Rovers, he's been a referee for too long. I don't want to know anything about these people.
Back to the game, John. Trying to push aside the injustices from VAR and from the referee, from Anthony Taylor. I thought it was Lee Probert. I noticed it was a bald ref, and I was like, right, bald ref. So Lee Probert, David Ellery. I was trying to work out which one it was. But it was Anthony Taylor. I completely missed it. It wasn't Anthony Taylor. But do you think we did enough to have pushed the initiative, ignoring the injustices? I think that we huffed and puffed. I just don't think that we pushed the initiative enough. And is that a good thing? Perhaps Conte learned things from this 1-1 draw with Southampton than if we'd have steamrolled them because they were a man down. Are there any positive to be taken from the game?
I actually thought Doherty played not bad, even though he was on the wrong side. I probably would have brought Brian Hill on if he was fit enough to play 45 minutes on the left wing back role, given that we were playing against 10. We created lots. We had a lot of shots, didn't we? We had the stats brought out that we had a lot of shots. Forster, apart from the muck up for the goal that wasn't given, actually made quite a few good saves. But no, we didn't do enough. We too many times our crosses were poor. We weren't crossing it. Having the inverted wing backs for the last 25 minutes didn't work because you knew straight away they were going to cut back on their right foot, and it just gives the central defenders a chance to set themselves. And there wasn't enough movement in the box. So on the one hand, yeah, we should have won the game. We could have won the game, but we just probably didn't do enough in the grand scheme of things. It showed we need another striker, and we need, that game was calling out for probably Ndombele, but having seen Conte's comments today, saying when he was asked what he thought about Ndombele, the response being he's a midfielder. That's what he is. He's a midfielder. I'd suggest he's not going to be around much longer. So we desperately need that lock picker to come in and help us.
Why was calling him a midfielder a diss?
So if you give him, he was asked about Winks, and he went on quite a long conversation about Winks, about basically how Winks is trusted, and I can trust him. Then he was asked about Ndombele. He's a midfielder.
Wow,
was literally his response.
That's a burn.
Yeah. And the fact he was left on the bench when we needed some creativity, he could have easily gone to 4 at the back in that second half and put Davis at left back, couldn't he? We didn't need to play, you could argue the wing backs were basically playing as wingers in the second half, but they weren't. Unfortunately, Emerson's crossing is not very good, is it? He's a box to box. He's an up and down the touchline player, but he's got the Kyle Walker crossing gene as opposed to the Kieran Trippier crossing gene, unfortunately.
But if you think all the people that were putting the crosses in, was it yesterday? 2 days ago. I forget when the game was now. Like 2 days ago. You're quiet. Like it feels forever. But,
it's Christmas. No one ever knows which day of the week it is.
Exactly. All the people crossing it in. You've got on the left-hand side we had Doherty on his right foot and Davies on his left, and on the other side we had Emerson on his right foot. Sanchez tried a couple towards the end. I think Sanchez was the first one to realise we need to do something with the ball here rather than just pass it side to side. And like, are they ever going to? And 10 minutes of Brian Hill? I mean, that's basically it. Like those people are not going to give you crosses. The fact that Forster dropped one and put it in his own net doesn't mean that it was a successful tactic. Otherwise, we sound like Mikel Arteta. Just put more crosses in. No. Oh, well, here we go.
There he is.
Yeah, anyway.
I heard Harry Winks. I heard the name Harold Winks was trusted. That was it for me. I knew I had to come on.
I just think it's crazy. Like we're sitting here talking about Dombele, who didn't play any minutes whatsoever, and yet what we should be doing is talking about the substitutions because, the manager made some terrible choices, absolutely terrible choices, and yet people, they don't want to criticize him because obviously we all know Conte's the best manager we've had in a very, very long time, which is still true. But he made some real cock-ups with those substitutions. And here we are talking about Dombele. I mean, he's really happy. I'm sure he's really happy that we're talking about Dombele. No, the result against Southampton had nothing to do with him whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Like, I think towards the end, we basically had Sanchez and Højbjerg like pushing forward on the edge of the box. We just didn't need either of them on the pitch. Whereas, as much as like Dele didn't have his best game, I still think I'd rather take off Mora put Mora on for either Højbjerg or take off a defender, and at least we've got two attacking threats in the box because we just didn't need those guys at all. Which I think that's kind of disappointing thing about that second half, really.
Yeah, the subs were questionable. I mean, can question Conte. He's an incredible manager, but there were some questionable decisions here. Speaking of questionable decisions, how are we doing, caller?
I'm all right. How are you doing in my chair, Brent? You all right?
Good, man. It's good. I got my chair. I got the chair with the Brazil Spurs flag. There we go.
Look at that.
Brazil
There you
Spurs.
go.
That's why Sandro loves me.
Beautiful. Everyone loves you, Brent. You're just a very likable chap.
How we doing,
I
man?
thought I'd just come in, for moral support and to guest. It's interesting to guest on your own show, isn't it? Every now and again.
So, caller, what are your thoughts on Harry Winks' man of the match display?
I mean, if ever there was a loaded question, he wasn't man of the match.
He was man of the match.
He basically had 3 assists, just 2 of them were taken off.
Well, if I don't go down in the
Or 3 of them were taken off
in the history
basically.
books, then that ultimately they don't count, do they? So look, Winks has made a little bit of a comeback. It's fair to say, but I'd still get rid of him if I had half a chance. I don't think he's not good enough. Two good games.
Who we can get now is going to be compete.
I don't think he will get rid of him. I think he's pretty much said he won't get rid of him. But
He has.
two good games do not mean, 2 good games do not mean that he's not shit.
Quick question: who do you keep, Dele or Winks?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I asked the Twitter sphere earlier this week around who should play. Who would you keep between Dele or Winks? They can both go as far as I'm concerned. But if you've got to keep one, Dele.
Okay, don't think Conte agrees with you there.
I don't suppose he does, and he clearly knows a lot more about football than me. So that's my opinion.
But my thing on it, I reckon if you play Dele for 5 games, he's going to be better than any player we can get in for the rest of the season, undoubtedly.
You've got to play the right formation with Dele. That's the thing. Isn't it?
And he's starting to get that now. And I think, even his quality against Liverpool didn't finish it off, but was decent and caused a lot of trouble. Against Southampton, didn't quite come off as much, but he still makes decent runs, and the whole team just didn't play as well. And I reckon if you play him for 5 games, he's going to start scoring goals, and I just don't know who we can get in realistically now. He's going to contribute any more than if we just back Dele Alli, basically.
It's where you fit him in, I think, because to be honest, the game the other night, I think it's already been covered, but dropping skips. Oh, it's not nearly as good as the other day. What did I say
How much
there?
you had to drink, caller?
Teddy Shettington dropping Skip. Bizarre decision, if you ask me, because he's been a standout midfielder this season. And
Rotation, surely.
Yeah, I understand you've got to rotate, but if it were me, Højbjerg's the one who would have missed out. Sorry, that's my view.
I think he will on Saturday.
I think it would be interesting. Had we started with an all English midfield of Winks, Skip, and Dele, I mean that would have, considering all the players that we've bought for lots of money, Don Belly, I mean, Soso's not fit obviously, but Bergwijn was out, but all these players that we spent a lot of money, and it'd be like two Spurs academy products and Dele who cost $5 million. I mean, like. I'm not against the idea. I just think it would have been interesting that we've decided, okay, we're going to do that. I think Bergwijn's injury cost us. I think he'd have started over Dele. But I think to me that the biggest thing is that in that second half, we knew that Southampton were going to sit back, and we played 3 centre backs and 2 midfielders the entire time.
Not just 2 midfielders. 2 defensive midfielders.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Winks can play a pass, right? Because he did. He showed it. He's proved it now in the last couple of games. We know he can do it, but Højbjerg can't. So, you had Højbjerg dropping deep into be one of the centre backs, and I'm thinking, well, if you Dyer's got a better pass than Sanchez, so put Sanchez in the middle and have Dyer cross the ball, because we know that Dyer can do that. It just felt like we were being managed by someone who has never seen Spurs players before and just thought, well, he looks like he can cross the ball. I mean, literally, just by looking at them, can you cross? Yes. All right, on you go. It was horrendous. I don't think Dele played particularly well, but to take him off when you need a goal and you've got no strikers on the bench is just dumb. If Dele offers you one thing, it's the possibility, because he knows how to score. And yet we took him off for Lucas, who the best touch he made in the entire 30 minutes he was on was to shank it with his left foot and then cross it with his right.
I think we with these bizarre decisions from Conte, maybe we kind of have to give him a bit of slack in he knows what he's doing on the training pitch, and we've seen the whole thing with Victor Moses. He's doing that with fucking Harry Winks. He's doing that with Ben Davies. He's doing that with these players. So sometimes we may have to give them a bit of rope to make a decision that we may not agree with.
Decision, I'll call him out on it. I mean, we all think it was wrong. It's like the idea that we can't say it's wrong because he's new and he's good.
No, it was wrong. It was a wrong decision.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no two ways about it. It was a stupid decision. Why do you keep 5 defensive players on the pitch when the side's got 10 men? It is bizarre. And look, I'm a massive Conte fanboy, but I think he got it wrong. I think he got it wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. We've seen what he's done. We've seen what he's capable. He is a coach. And so sometimes he can maybe get things out of players that we would never see that they were capable of doing. And so maybe we have to kind of cut him a bit of slack to let him try these things. If it doesn't work out, fair dues. Yeah. We call him out on it. But we keep going.
I don't know if this is on the run sheet, but I just want to ask this question, right? Because you're right. We have seen improvements in a number of players since Conte took over. So what do you think it is that he's done? Right? Do you think it's been on the training pitch? What has made Davies look better and Winks look better? And I mean, even Dele has played relatively well by his standards. And yet, how many have looked worse since Conte took over? Højbjerg might be one.
Probably Højbjerg, yeah.
Dyer's looks decent. So, bearing in mind he's had so little time on the training pitch, what do you think has changed for these players to start looking like top level footballers again?
Confidence. Confidence and belief from manager, isn't it?
So, I think it's clarity of purpose, basically. Just about any team, work, anything. If you have clarity of purpose, you know what you're doing. You can iterate around that. You can improve. You can get better if you know where you're going. And I think that's what we've missed from previous managers. I think he's come in. He's like, this is exactly what we're doing. This is what I want you to do in that role, and just go for it. That's what I want. Try and achieve that. And I think that's helped everyone.
to be devil's advocate for a second, right? And I agree with you, right? But like even though Mourinho is not a coach, right? He says that himself. He would have gone out there and said, you would imagine, keep it tight and try and score on the counter, right? That in his eyes, that's a plan, right? Now, to none of us, it's not good enough. We all know it's not good enough. But I think there's got to be more to it than just now we have a plan. We have a different plan, and that might work. I think the fact that we are playing a different formation than what Nuno had. Nuno was quite defensive too. Nuno had decided for whatever reason that he wanted the width from fullbacks. Well, we have width from fullbacks now, but they're 20 yards up the pitch because they're playing as wing-backs rather than fullbacks. So I personally think, and I don't really know exactly how, but like maybe Winks looks better. You know, if Winks is the backwards and sideways passer that we all thought he was, right? And now he's got more options behind him because he's going to have Dyer straight behind him and two wide of him, and then the other two wing backs. That he's got more options to pass it. And before, if he looked up as the more defensive of a midfield three, and you've got a narrow three, and then just two defenders behind you. Like I feel like it's stupid because it's still 11 players on a team, but it feels like the system gives him more options. He's allowed to do something more with it. Previously, you could press Winks and he'd have nowhere to go. Now it feels like he has places to go. And yeah, I do think he's a bit more confident because obviously he's got a manager that wants him to do things that are different and maybe things that he's good at. But I think that, the same is true of Davies. Like Davies looks better as a left-sided centre-back than he does as a full-back because the things he's asked to do as a left-sided centre-back suit him. Like you don't want Davies to be bombing down the wing as a left-back because he doesn't have the skill set for it. So it's really interesting that Conte is obviously a great manager, but I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that the system that he has chosen, system that a lot of us have been championing most of the season, seems to be giving these players the chance to go out and show what they can do rather than try and do the things they can't.
Yeah,
fair enough. Well, a few more questions here coming up from Lindy. This is HG, this is your mum. They all lack confidence, and now individually they are becoming aware of what Conte wants, works for them and the team. And that's the thing. Confidence is a huge thing. I think we've noticed that with Conte coming in. We've seen players like Sessegnon, players that were just destroyed with confidence, now coming out, they're coming on the pitch, and in a few weeks showing what they can do. Caller, there's been an impact in terms of confidence from the manager.
Could just say to this, Dave Harris, you know how tall I am. I've had a pint at the stadium. Stop being cheeky. What is it? The obsession with my height. I'm over 6 foot. Confidence. Look, the reality of this is sport is a massive chunk of any sport is confidence, and you see it when players are short of it, and our players have been short of it for a long, long time. I don't think Nuno installed any confidence in the players whatsoever, but to have the turnaround in players' form like Harry Winks, and there are others. I think Kane is a very good example. Even Harry Kane needs confidence instilling him, and people do need that. They need an arm around the shoulder. They don't need hanging out to dry. And I think Conte has absolutely done a fantastic job on the management side of things. I think HG's mum is absolutely spot on, and I think Conte's very clear about what he wants. I think what will be very interesting is who we sign in the transfer windows, which I'm sure we're going to cover later on. But the January transfer window, and to a greater sense the summer transfer window, are just massive, because it'll be we'll get a real impression of whether we're going to challenge or not from it. I think you can do so much with confidence, I suppose, but if the quality's not there, then you've got a problem, and I don't think the quality is there through the team yet.
So that's the bit I disagree in. I think we've seen Harry Winks play well. We've seen Dele Alli hit unbelievable heights. So these aren't bad players. There's some of the goals that Dele Alli scored. He must have at least 1 or 2 goals in the top sort of probably 10 Premier League goals of all time. The goals he scores are unbelievable. You can't say he's not a player in there. And I think that's where having confidence, a system, and working around them. We know they can hit good heights, and maybe there's too much like, I don't know, whatever nonsense or baggage at the club that maybe they'll never hit that game. But, you know, like we know they're good players. If you put them in a good system, you can get great results from them.
Exactly that. And it's strange to see the upturn. The players don't look scared. Like we saw under Mourinho, we saw under Nuno even, that the players, they didn't take risks. And now we're seeing that. They've got a manager that lives the game. Like he trains them before the game. He trains them during the game. He is there 24/7 helping them on. And that confidence is a habitual voyeur for what is known as...
Spotlight!
I think like Winks is probably a great example of that. Like when you're at the stadium, anytime the ball came anywhere near Winks, like about a month ago, it's just this like you could hear everyone just instantly just like massive sigh. You could hear it all around the stadium anytime the ball got anywhere near him.
And that would affect his confidence, surely.
Like, exactly,
and you still hear it from the North Stand, block 420.
Yeah. But as soon as he does the same game, like it will happen again, but like a lot less. And I think there's less expectation. But the reality is, if there's 60,000 people around you who don't want you to be there, don't expect you to do well, it's like impossible for that not to affect your confidence when the ball comes into you first time. Hopefully that's starting to change. And and I think as well, probably like Conte's got a big part of that in terms of actually just getting the fans going when we've all been pretty miserable, like when we've been turning up for the last sort of 3 months. Like rightly so, there's been a lot to be miserable about, but it's
exactly that,
like flywheel, isn't it?
And that is exactly what it's about. It is about that connection between the team and the fans. It's about that connection at the stadium, and Conte's brought that back. Caller, I don't know between you and John or Marcus as well, who've been to more games, but I'll go with you, Caller. Have you noticed an upturn in the atmosphere since Conte's come in?
I'm trying to think if I've been to a game with Conte in charge yet.
Haven't you? You been that fucked with COVID that you haven't gone to a game?
I've been that fucked with work, mate. That's the problem.
So you weren't at Liverpool?
Wasn't at
John?
Liverpool, no.
I went to the Norwich game.
I was at
Go on, Marcus.
But that's exactly. So Liverpool was the first game for like a long time where I actually, just enjoyed every minute of being there. I think, and even towards the end of it, you maybe start. I think the real gauges are people singing like player songs, and the Norwich game, Brentford game. Even though we're winning, even though we're doing all right, nobody's singing like Harry Kane. No one's singing the Dele Alli song. No one's singing anything. And like, if you kind of like listen to the Southampton game, people are singing like I Love Eric Dyer again, and that's the difference. Like nobody was singing those songs. Like nobody was like getting that. You get like a little bit of Communist Spurs and glory Tottenham. Like that was it. Whereas now, I think the fan songs are coming, the play songs are coming back in, and people are sort of getting behind the team. And I think like that's what we all want to sing. Like, and that's what I think really motivates the players.
Yeah. Well, John, we have Watford coming up in our next game, and they've not been on the best run of form. Looking at the form table, they've lost each of their last 5 games. They lost 4-1 to West Ham, who we spanked last week. Well, we did them last week. They've since lost to Arsenal, and hang on a sec. They beat Man United. Hang on a sec.
They got Ollie sacked, didn't they? That was the game Ollie got sacked off.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. So that feels like 2 years ago. How is that still a thing? Yeah, they've lost 5 of their last games. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I have this to say. Dr. Tottenham will be coming for Watford. You get that feeling, don't you? But hopefully not under Conte. Hopefully,
I'm just working out when my last game was. I was definitely at Leeds.
Right, Leeds was his first home game, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was good.
There we go.
I mean, to be honest, under Nuno, it was so bad. Under Mourinho, at times, it was awful, wasn't it? We had no fans. If we'd had fans, it would have been even quieter than the empty stadium, I have a feeling.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was at the Project Restart game, Well, there's only 3,000 fans, and everyone was hacked off then. But he's gone by that stage, hasn't he?
Mourinho, yeah, it was Mason, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was bonkers. The whole crowd was just chanting for Dale to come on for like almost 60 minutes of it. It's great.
Well, looking to the Watford game, John. Is there any of their players that you're worried about? Dennis is obviously their key danger. He scored 8 goals so far, 5 assists. He looks decent. They didn't pay too much for him. He looks like a decent prospect.
Yeah, he's good signing. He's in my fantasy league team now as well. Signed him a few weeks ago. He is scoring goals. He is the danger man ultimately. It'd be interesting to see what Ranieri does, because they've been very much sticking to a 4-1-4-1 with occasionally a 4-3-3. But he's been moving the players around. He's been playing. Sometimes Sissoko's been the holder, then other times Sissoko's been a bit in the 4 in midfield. If it's 4-1-4-1, it really depends how up for it they are and how up for it we are. If we start the way we did against Southampton, and we have been very slow starters, even under Conte generally, we give them a chance. But we just need to get a couple of goals and knock them out of the game. Here he is.
Hello. Sorry.
Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Hello, Marcus.
How's it going, David? Nice to meet you, person.
Right, it's very nice to meet you as well. But there's
Over a continent.
Now you're top of the fantasy league and you work for Hawkeye. There's a massive conflict here going on.
I mean, to be honest, you may as well have joined.
I work in tennis.
Sorry, caller.
I said you may as well have joined because you were spamming the chat group that much. It's good to see you.
Well, I'm just HG's substitute. I don't know where he's gone, but
I don't know where he's gone. I scared him off. I don't know where he's gone. But anyway,
I hope that's okay, Brendan, because you're doing a great job of hosting tonight and doing a great job of the run sheet as well.
Mate, have I touched the run sheet? There's a run sheet? Mate, good to see you, man. Right, so tell us, what's your thoughts ahead of the Watford game? How much do you think will Span can buy?
Is that one for me?
Yeah, it's for you.
Okay, so when the last show that we were on, we were all extremely cocky about Southampton away. All of us were. And I think it's a bad sign when all of us are cocky about when we play someone, because it just fate comes along and gives you the kick in the proverbials. So in theory, we should win. They are a team struggling near the bottom. I would look to rotate as much as possible. So I think you'd be looking at Skip and Winks in the middle and drop Højbjerg. And my concern is with Kane and Son that we are really overloading them at the moment, and we need to have a think about that. I'd even think about starting Mr. Hill on against Watford.
Starting Hill. So you're thinking of in that front 3 to play Hill as opposed to Son, for example, like keeping Kane as the main focal point. Marcus, what are your thoughts? How do you think we should line up against Watford? How knackered do you think the players will be after the festive period?
Yeah, well, that's it. I think it is dangerous, and I think, especially someone like Kane, we play him fairly often, but usually gets injured around this sort of time, doesn't he? So, I think he came off for a little bit against who played maybe Crystal Palace, but he's only really had like half an hour off. Maybe we might be able to put up with it because we've had a few like game weeks off because of COVID. So I don't know. It's one of those things. Yeah, that's why if we had a sort of second striker, this is when we need him really. But it's always kind of a risk of like we need to win. I think like Watford. The difference probably between them and some of the other teams around is that they do have people who can score. They can be dangerous, and they have they've won a few games against decent opposition this year. So definitely can't take them lightly. So you don't want to put out too sort of softer team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think probably after drawing against Southampton, I think we have to kind of go fairly strong again and maybe sort of kind of give them a bit of rest during the FA Cup or in that break afterwards, really.
Yeah, looking at the form table, I think we really should be going in to beat them. Only Norwich have a similarly poor recent record. So both have lost the last 5 games. So again, this is Tottenham. We can't take anything for granted. But John, how are you seeing the game pan out? Who do you think will play in terms of looking at the game against Southampton? Was there any changes that you'd make from that? Would it be simply rotational, or were there players that don't deserve to go back into the team?
I'd start Lucas ahead of Dele. I think I'd probably at the back. I wouldn't be surprised if Tanganga gets another game in place of. He's not going to drop Dyer, is he? It's going to be for Sanchez just as rotation. But yeah, I'm just looking at Adrian's put a team up. Probably not a million miles away. I probably just wouldn't put Dele in there at the moment, based on his performance the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right wing back's your problem, isn't it? I'll put Davis in ahead. Probably it would be Tanganga for Sanchez if you want to rest Sanchez or Dyer, because Dyer's played every game.
Doherty's the right wing back, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's in Adrian's team there. He's not put Davis in, and unless Davis isn't fully recovered from COVID, obviously there was an article on the Spurs website today about him. I'd play Davis because he gives us that natural balance on the left. Tanganga did well against Palace.
Can I ask why we're not playing Emerson? We're playing Doherty. That's a given. Apparently, what's caller? Help me out here. Why is Doherty playing and Emerson not?
Well, I would play Emerson.
I'd play Emerson.
I personally would play Emerson.
He's played a lot.
I think,
but maybe you need to rest. Maybe you need to rest and rotate.
If you need to rest, that's fine. Look, Doherty played all right, I thought, when he came on the other night. And for me, here's the thing. I mean, he was inverted. Why on earth he was playing on the left? God only knows. But don't get me started. His best days in his career were at Wolves as a right wing back with playing three centre backs, bombing up, getting into the box, ghosting and scoring goals. And he does score goals. He's good in the penalty area. So if you could actually use Doherty in that role rather than as a right back in a flat back four. Now, we've never seen him in that role. Never seen him in that role for Spurs. It's absurd. We've bought a player that does this, has got this skill set, but he's no. And I get the hatred for Doherty. I get it because he's been shit for us pretty much the whole time. But we've never played him in his position favoured. And under
fucking have. We have. I'm sorry, we have.
No, we haven't. Not under Conte. Not under Conte.
We have.
Yeah.
He's had his shot. Sorry.
Under Conte.
Under Conte.
I think
How many managers does he need? Come on.
So hang on. Hold up. So you're telling me that Winks gets the second chance, but Doherty doesn't?
Well, Winks has shown some.
I agree with you.
Doherty hasn't had a chance under Conte.
I think I think you're right. Like, again, it's someone who has scored, plenty of goals and assists when he's been used to his well, I guess where he performs best, really. And I think, again, somebody who's come into a team which, like, from day one that he's been there, has been a pretty negative, pretty dour, pretty confused environment. So yeah, like, I agree. I think it was good. I think he tried well on the game the other day. He got into decent positions. He was making good runs. He was just right-footed on the left wing and couldn't really do anything when he got into those positions.
Well, I mean, he pretty much scored a goal that was a perfectly good goal that was disallowed or contributed to. So
yeah, it was an own goal. It was forced heel.
But he forced it. He
didn't even force it. He was nowhere near him. It was ridiculous.
He was on the halfway line.
Point being, I mean this. Doherty has not been played to his strongest skill set by any Tottenham manager yet. I want to see him up in their half. I want to see him pushed on, attacking, because that's where he's at his best. He's crap defensively. Any Wolves fan will tell you he's crap defensively. My dad, who's a season ticket holder, said, "Why are you playing him in a flat back four? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. He can't defend. He's good in the final third. Look at his goal ratio for Wolves. Excellent."
Yeah, but Caller, you mentioned before you didn't understand why he was played inverted against Southampton. That's because we didn't have Sessegnon on the bench. So that's why he came on.
You just switched Davis to left back.
Well, Davis is probably Davis is better Davis's best form in years. Hang on. Davis's best form in years has been part of the back three. That's why he was playing there, and that's why he put him in. He put Doherty in as the inverted left wing back against Everton as well in his first game. So I think
where's Hill stronger, on the left or the right?
He's stronger on the left, but he doesn't trust him to play a left wing. Yeah, I agree. Look,
here you go then. You've answered your own question.
No, I haven't answered my own question because your comment was you don't understand why he was inverted when he came on. He was inverted for when he came on because we didn't have Sessegnon and he wanted to keep Davis as part of the back three. Now, here's the bit that you're like. I agree. Hill. Hang on a second. I agree with you that when Hill came on around the 75th minute mark, it made no sense whatsoever to have them both inverted. They should have been put on their correct side. And for the last 15 minutes, we should have seen that. So you're partially correct.
Well, no, I'm totally correct. You just wouldn't have brought him on when you did. You would have brought Hill on at left wing back. That would be the answer.
But maybe Caller Hill wasn't up to playing a whole half. He's been out a long time. He hasn't played since Mura. We think he's had COVID. He had an injury before that.
Christ, I'll get out there and play 45 minutes. Come on.
What, the amount of cake and champagne Tattinger you've had this Christmas?
It's been a lot of Tattinger. It's been a very tatty Christmas. People would be proud of me. Out to the accountant.
I'm going to jump to Marcus here. Marcus, there are rumours that Hugo Lloris is on his way to Nice. I don't want to lose him. I don't think anyone here wants to lose him. We should be doing everything we should be doing to hold on to him, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think if like nothing else, what is this for? Doing the transfer window this in January just to try and make some money from it? Is that the rumor?
Hang on, so you do want him to go still? You're happy to
No. I'm just saying, like, certainly we shouldn't be letting our club captain of 10 years slip out the back door during Christmas. Like when we're actually sort of making some strides and start to put together a team. I think 100% we've got to keep him to the end of the year, and if he wants to go off, then we have like a nice sort of parade for him at the end of in the summer, and and see him off in the start basically. But yeah, of course we should be doing everything to keep hold of him. I can see why Nice might look pretty appealing at this time, but coming down to the end of your career, but. Yeah, we should be doing everything we can to keep him. He's been a legend for us, and
I think he'll sign an extension.
Conte's press conference today, he sort of gave big hints that he's going to sign.
Really?
He said he loves the club. Yeah. I think he would have evaded the question if he didn't think he was going to sign.
He'll sign a new deal. He'll sign a new deal. It's his best deal. It's his best offer. He's with a guy that's won things in various different leagues. As we've said, the best manager Spurs have ever had. He loves the club. He wouldn't have hung around through all our bad days, early on in his tenure. I can't see it. I can't see him leaving.
Pickford.
David,
I'd rather. Oh my lord.
Pickford, doesn't he? He looks like that kid out of This Is England, doesn't he? So
he does a bit, yeah.
He does. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'd rather have the kid out of This Is England than Pickford in goal.
Would you rather have Caller in goal?
I'd rather have blind PJ from PJ and Duncan. When he got the paintballs in the eyes. I'd rather have him. That's what I thought of when you said this.
That's I can't stand either of them, to be honest. The only joy I had of Ant Deck was watching their reactions when we beat them at Newcastle after they'd gone 1-0 up. Beautiful.
That was good.
That was such a good game, yeah.
That was one of the most beautiful.
He looked like he got paint in his eyes that day as well, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe he did when he was in that car crash. Anyway, moving on.
Oh.
Matt Hayes. Love you, Matt. Do you think that Lloris is worried about staying a year too long and ruining his reputation with a terrible final season? He's had many terrible seasons at Spurs. The last one's not going to make a difference.
I wouldn't say terrible. He's never had a terrible season, has he?
No.
I'm joking. But this is it's the most optimistic season for him. So surely he would stick around.
How many likes are on, Bran? How many likes we got so far?
52, 96 watching.
Exactly,
Shit.
guys. Come on, sort that shit out. Come on, please. It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. Hit the like button. It just costs you nothing.
So, Brendan, you're saying that this is Hugo's most optimistic season at Tottenham under Conte. What about his half season under Dim Deadwood? Surely that was better, no?
The thing is that he had a higher win ratio, perhaps, but then this is like I think he'll say. I'm hoping he'll sign, and why would he? Like, why the fuck would he go to Nice? What are Nice going to win? Like,
It's his hometown. It's his hometown. That's why.
It's quite a nice town on the south of France as well.
Yeah.
Good. He can retire there. He doesn't need to play football there.
Well, exactly,
he can go there and watch the seagulls.
He's got 3 good years left in him. Easy.
Yeah.
6-week break.
I mean, he's just turned 35, hasn't he? He was born on the day we beat West Ham 4-0, which is always a good thing. Anyway, it's a good omen. And he has been very, very good since Project Restart, hasn't he? How many mistakes has he actually made recently? He'll probably make one on Saturday, typically. No, he's been very, very good, hasn't he? I think he's got at least 2 or 3 years left in him. If he signs a 2-year contract, then he can go off to Nice to retire. Happy days.
Let's just go back to this. Doherty is shit. But I just want to see if he can do it. So yeah, Doherty is shit. There you go.
Doherty's shit.
Fine. Doherty's shit. Come on. More likes.
At
the moment. Quick word on Harry Kane. He has looked a bit more up for it recently. Like the goal against Southampton, which was a fucking goal, was pure Kane, pure instinct. A great first touch. Caller, is Harry Kane back? Are we going to see 20 goals this season?
Do well to pull 20 goals out of the bag now. How many has he got so far? About 4, 5?
Yeah.
Maybe he'd have to spank a lot in against Norwich and Watford. Maybe. Look, hopefully Harry Kane is back. Is he back for long? That's the question. I think is he going anywhere in the transfer window? Look, I think again, who wouldn't want to play under Conte? He's motivated. He's motivated like he hasn't been probably since Mourinho joined because he loved Mourinho. But the reality is that he was not motivated at all under Nuno. Whether that's right, and there was obviously all the City stuff kicking off about the transfer and all the rest of it at that period of time, but he wasn't motivated to play under him. I think he's probably got his head down now, and ultimately, who wouldn't want to play for one of the best managers in the world?
Davo, do you reckon he'll sign a new contract? There's rumours of a new contract circulating.
I think half a season more, and then he'll be gone in the summer. I think he's got 2 years left. Well, look, I mean, you've got to look at the summer, right? So look at the summer. I think there's going to be a massive striker merry-go-round. It's like a big chain transaction of conveyancing. So you got Haaland, you got Mbappe, you've got Lewandowski. Andy Carroll's probably looking for a new gig. You know, there's a lot of strikers.
All the classics.
All the classics. Anyway, there's a lot of strikers on the market in the summer. So the question is he's going to look at it and see where he's going to end up. I think City would still want to buy him, but what's his rate going to be in the market in the summer? I reckon 80 million.
No. He's still 100 plus.
He's got 2 years.
Hang on. Dave, let me ask you what his market value is in Daniel Levy's head. Because that's the only market value that matters, right?
Well, old Daniel's going to get his big old spreadsheet out, which I know he has on the bedroom ceiling in his mansion in Hertfordshire. He's got to look at 2 more years left on Kane's contract. How much money he's going to get for him? How much money would get for him out of branding, sponsorship, and things like that?
Go on.
And whether it's in the hang on, whether it's in the club's interest to sell him with 2 years to go. He got tuppence for Ericsson with 6 months to go. He got rid of Dembele in January for a tenner with 6 months to go. Daniel's got to work all these things out, as I'm sure he will.
So what would you to answer the question then?
To answer the question,
80 million this summer.
It's the market. And Daniel will, on August the 31st at 11:30 p.m, when he's lining up Fraser Campbell to come in on loan, he'll say, these are the offers on the table. This is what I've got, 2 years to go, and let's see what happens. That's what he's going to do. Now the
Okay,
the sensible option would be if Vlahovic is 200 grand a week and
Somewhere
80
in
million.
transfer.
That's on the table now. If that
Yeah.
is on the table now, you buy Vlahovic now. You go, all right, get him in now, and then you bet him in for 6 months. And if Kane doesn't sign a new contract in the summer, that's when you get rid of Kane, and that's like the down payment for the Vlahovic money. That's what you do if you're sensible.
So,
Yes.
what do you think he values him at?
Now,
Hmm.
no, old Daniel. Well, he wanted 150 in the summer. So old
120.
Daniel's probably, yeah, I reckon Daniel's thinking 120.
120.
And
Well,
that is
he ain't
market
thinking-
value.
So he ain't thinking 80 million then, is he, Dave?
Well, I don't think I think the market says 80 million.
Yeah,
2 years
Because
ago.
he's had a shit for a few months, but that's still you've seen signs from him that he's still the player that he was. He's still 120 easily.
20. I think he's 80.
He's 120.
Let's meet at 100, and we got
Easy.
ourselves a deal.
I'm out.
Which is probably where it's going to be. Like if he does go this Jan, which I doubt,
No, he
it'll
won't
probably
go
be 100
Jan.
million.
Won't go Jan.
So,
Oh, okay,
listen,
yeah.
so we'll spend 70 million on Vlahovic and get 100 for Kane in the summer. We'll still need another striker after that,
Yeah.
and go after Dybala or the geezer who's just gone to the US, Insigne.
No.
Well behind that, I am. Well,
No,
behind
we'll
that.
get the sensible thing would be get Vlahovic in Jan, Kane goes in the summer, and then you got the 30 million to play with, which I don't think he will have to play with. Is then you get your Janssen, then you get your Janssen or Llorente, like someone who will sit on the bench but could do a job, and that's what we do. That's sensible planning.
Are you saying Janssen did a job? Because he
No,
didn't
no,
in
no.
my
I was
eyes.
just thinking that.
He did.
Which job
do you
did he
remember-
do? Did he
Hang-
mow Daniel leave his
No.
lawn on his day off, or what? You know, 'cause he didn't put the
Oh, he
ball
was
in the
furloughed.
man. Really?
Such short-termism. So let me take you back to the golden era of Poch and the.
Where is Johnson now? Actually,
Hang on a second.
In Monterrey,
Yeah.
in Mexico, isn't he?
You remember when we were losing at Swansea and Janssen came on and he did a couple of assists and we won that game and we were bearing down on the title. I can't remember if it was the Leicester year or the Chelsea year. He came on and made a difference then. We need someone, a body to be in the box to do a job. All right. Okay, he wasn't very good. I get that. But we need another striker. We are running such a massive risk now. God forbid Kane or Son gets injured against Watford. Everyone will rack up their prices against us anyway. We need to get a striker in early January. That's our biggest risk.
well,
Dave, no one disagrees with you.
No one disagrees with you about needing another striker, but January is an awful time to buy anyone.
No, but we'll
We
just
need
get
him.
a striker. Just get a bloody striker now.
Pookie it is.
Phuket is. I'd take
What time
Ivan
is
Toney.
it?
Tony, let's get
It's
Ivan
15,
Toney from Brentford. We should have got him before they got promoted because his price went from 20 to 40 just with their promotion.
You say that, but he's been shit for half the season. Hasn't he? He's not-
Yeah, he ain't been great.
He's had COVID, isn't he? I think he's had COVID bad.
That's just the excuse for everyone, isn't it?
We should have got Ollie Watkin when he was available, but we didn't want to pay the price, of course.
You get Emmanuel
We could-
Dennis
we-
at
Yeah,
9
but
o'clock
again,
on the 1st of
can't
January.
Ollie Watkins
Yeah.
isn't setting the world on fire right now, is he?
So, Marcus, who
No.
do you reckon we should go for, Marcus? Let's go to you. It's been a while since you've chatted.
Come on, Hawkeye.
Come on,
Who
Marcus.
do I reckon? Like, to be honest, I don't really know. I've not really looked at the sort of market for strikers recently, but yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, I was kind of I made the deal around what's his face? Who did we have
Vlahovic?
last year?
Oh.
I forget. Who was the Brazilian guy we had last year? I was frustrated that kind of lapsed. I know there's-
Vinicius.
Vinicius.
Vinicius, yeah, junior. But like that's the kind of person we need. Someone who's, you know, can do exactly what David said. Like come in and
He's
just do
not
a
very
job.
good.
Well, just come in and do a job. I think. I don't know. I think the Vlahovic rumours are nice if we can get him, but he's floating around with a lot of other clubs who are sort of interested as well.
He's got Conte. He wants to come to Spurs because he got Conte, and Kane's going to go like he's going to be the main man.
But-
Surely it's going to happen.
But I think that's the one thing. I think Paratici at least seems to have at least have those kind of links to, kind of get us in the conversation with some of these players. So I think that bodes well. I think that definitely helps us compared to where we were probably in previous seasons trying to get a big name in. But yeah, like I'll be honest, I've not really been following the sort of transfer markets too much. So.
I'll pose it like this, Marcus. Who do you want us to sign? Like again, ignoring like Messi, Ronaldo, fuck that shit. But who do you think, Mr. Hawkeye, we should fucking go for and nail down this January?
Trying to think.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Marcus. Would you be happy if we signed Bale on loan or whatever for the rest of the season?
Yeah, like 100% of it. But again, like I don't think that was one of the things with when you look back at like last season, like just how the hell did we get in a position where we had like Gareth Bale sitting on the bench because he couldn't track back? Like just play 6 at the back and play Bale, Son, and Kane up front. Like I didn't get that, but you know that's a bit of an odd one. But if he's sitting on the bench doing nothing at Real Madrid, like we saw what he could do last season when he played. Like it's not the worst shout, but yeah. Like in terms of who you buy, honestly, I've not been looking. I don't know who's out there. But like again, I'm not. I really doubt we're going to get someone in January who's really going to improve our squad. So I'd be happy just keeping hold of, like I say, keeping hold of Dele Alli, Winks, and just playing them and getting them back into form. Like I don't think we're going to get anyone who's going to have a bigger impact than they will.
You know why Marcus is being coy about who we should sign in the January window? Because he's plotting his fantasy team, and he's not giving it away. Right? I'm on to you, Hawkeye, already.
Yeah.
I've got your number.
Yeah,
Hawkeye is just such a great nickname as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'll give you another one. Another second top scorer in the Bundesliga is Patrick Schick. Don't say that after too many gins.
The
what
guy,
do you think of him?
Dick, the guy who
Yeah,
scored that absolute
scored like 4
worldly
goals
for Austria.
a couple
I
weeks
mean, if
ago, didn't he?
HG was here, he would be getting very excited about that
He would. Yeah.
prospect. Yeah, I don't think he's that good. If I'm being really honest, he's not really that proven in league football.
He scored more goals than Haaland this season in the Bundesliga.
Okay,
He's been injured for quite a while as well.
in Bund-
I think he did score like 4
same
of them
league in the
a couple weeks
Bundesliga
ago.
or lower
Yeah,
down.
you sound like you said
Same league.
Vlahovic has scored more goals in the Bundesliga than Lewandowski. They're not in the same
Vlahovic?
league, mate. It sounded like that's
No,
what you said.
Haaland.
Okay.
All right,
You know
how many
Haaland's gonna go
Haaland
for-
scored?
Right, hold on. Standing top scorer.
Back up your facts, man.
Haaland
Come on,
has scored
I wanna know.
13, but has 4 assists. Schick has 16, but only 1 assist.
How long has Schick got left on his contract?
I t-
How long's
He
a
only
piece
signed-
of shit?
He only signed last summer, 2020. So I'm guessing his contracts will be 3 or 4 years.
I
Just
shit you
say-
not. It's not a good idea.
This would have been a great move last summer. Daka would have
Yeah,
been great, but he ain't going to move from Leicester. That's the
Yeah, no, that he'll be 60 million. They'll charge for him now, won't they?
Daka.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah, no way.
I don't, and obviously Conte knows the market very well over there. I don't think.
Well, Conte knows Icardi. Didn't Conte move him on?
I think, John,
from
I
think he
Inter?
did,
John, you know Icardi better than anyone, mate.
Good shout. Yeah.
I'm more of a hoodie man.
Yeah. But I prefer you in your Cardi, mate. I prefer in your Cardi.
No, that was a jumper. Promise you. Honest.
Fine line. In Italy, though, there are loads of free agents this coming year.
Yeah.
So we got Dybala. Dybala is a free agent this coming
That's
year. So we could get him
incredible. That's
for 20 million.
incredible, to be honest. I mean, but I don't know where that sits with his image rights, to be honest. But
What sort of sporting director would allow him to have such a short contract? Get down to a year.
well,
He left.
one that hasn't been there for a year.
Brendan, I've noticed with you, Brendan, you're a bit obsessed with Dybala. Why you are
I
a
like
bit obsessed
Dybala.
with him?
He seems to do okay. Like he seems to always be there. You know what I mean? Like been a starter for Juventus, who are a strong team. I ain't got the stats. I'm assuming he's sort of topping 15 at least per season. I'll take him. Like, and he's Argentine. I know it's continuing the Argentine issue that we have, but I'll take him. Like, he's proven. And if we can get him on the cheap, if his contract's out in the summer, we can get him for what, 20, 25? We could do a Van Persie. I'd do it.
So this season he's got 5 in 13 league games. Last season he only got 4 in 20. The season before that was 11 in 33. And before that, 5 in 30. 17-18 was the last decent season when he scored 22 goals in the league.
Wow.
So he's not actually...
He's sidelined a bit by Ronaldo, isn't he? Like, he kind of stopped playing or...
Yeah.
That pissed on my cornflakes a little bit, but...
Sorry, mate.
I don't know. I'm sure he's okay. But I mean,
he has been in good form this year. And again, I think literally, Ronaldo being out of the picture has just meant that he's started playing again or playing in a position.
I mean, he's playing behind Morata, presumably, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not playing as the striker, is he? As such, I don't think. I mean, I don't watch much Juve, so I can't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that sounds sensible though.
There's Kessier. There's Insigne looks he's going to the MLS to Toronto to FC Toronto, or Toronto FC, which is a surprise. Is that where Defoe went? Defoe was, yeah. Their stadium. I don't know if you've been to Toronto. Their stadium's like between Mississauga and Toronto. So you'll see it every time you fly into Toronto. You'll drive past their stadium. It's probably 30,000 capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So it's kind of they do this like big like national fair in Toronto. It's kind of right part of it.
All right.
Yeah.
See, the cheese room giving you cultural city information as well as football.
Yeah. Head out there in August and you'll have a lovely time.
Dave, who would you like to sign? Realistically,
I want Vlahovic.
Very rich.
Vlahovic.
Have a coffee.
Okay. I haven't had a coffee yet. No, I haven't had a coffee yet this morning. I've been busy queuing up. Vlahovic, 1. I like that sound of that centre back at Milan. Who's Dutch.
Delight.
I love it. He sounds like a right delight. And maybe we can say to AC, look, Kessie's going in the summer. Why don't you have a little bit of a cheeky Lewis Holtby, Dembele, 6 months to go, a little bit of a deal there. Get him in and then ship out a few people on loan to balance off the old salary for the last 6 months, which is close to Daniel's heart.
That's just it. Like we were looking at like how many, like three or 4 max incomings. So I mean, if we can get those 3, like Vlahovic, Delight or Delicht, and Kessier, we nail them because you know that Conte would have obviously been given some assurances that in January he'll be able to bring players in that he wants, and I guess that bringing in Paratici was a preamble to Conte coming in and knowing that he can pull the strings in Italy and bring in these players. So all 3 of those coming from Italy, we can get decent prices for them. Paratici knows the financial sort of structures, obviously, because he's in court about those financial sort of ins and outs. So I think, 3 in and 3 out. Who'd be your 3 out, though, then, Dave?
I would ship Dele out on loan or permanent. I hate to say it. I mean, I thought Sanchez played well against Southampton, and that really sticks in my throat because I think he's crap. But I think more realistically, if we get a centre half in, then Joe Rodon goes out on loan or permanent. It's just not worked out for him. I'm sorry about that, Paul Muir. And then after that, it just depends. I mean, if you get a striker in, I don't think you should. You'd ship out Dele, you ship out Rodon. I think you just leave it at that. You don't want to make us too light on.
Yeah. Yeah, in the attacking thirds, we're pretty light. So we're looking more the sort of defensive midfield options. How about you, Marcus? If we're getting 3 to come in and we're assuming they are in our wildest dreams, Delight, Delicht, Vlahovic and Kessier, which 3 would you shift?
I'd be surprised if Delicht could come in and look Lucas Moura in the face again after the semi-final at Ajax, but Yeah, it would be like he'd be the person I would quite like to get in. But in terms of shipping out, like again, like not to harp on too much about it, but I think we've seen in previous years like people coming in, like Hill's taking time to settle in. Like Romero's been around, just been injured, but Lo Celso, I don't really think it's a guarantee that it's going to improve on anything. And I think certainly now, like where we're starting to get a tune out of some of these players like Winks and Dele, I think if we kind of keep them there, I think they'll offer more. And like I prefer to just wait until the summer and actually kind of plan things out and get the people we want rather than just sort of kind of trying to shoehorn people, which really realistically going to take like 2 months to settle in anyway, and probably just like unbalance like what we've got at the moment, which is quite like we're on a positive uptick, and I'd rather just kind of kept with that for the season, to be honest.
Very diplomatic. You should work for the club, mate. John, if you had to pick 3 players,
Hawkeye.
you had to pick 3 players that you want to shift. Which are the 3?
I think we've said it all. Rodon, I think he needs to go. He's not going to get a chance, is he? If we can get a right back, which we hear the club are looking at, Doherty can go, and probably Lo Celso or Ndombele, one of those two. If not, if they get rid of both and get some fresh players, it'd be great. But it's not going to happen. I think probably Lo Celso because he's made of glass, isn't he? He's not fit for the Premier League, unfortunately.
Yeah. You kind of look at both of them. You're like, well, what are they bringing to the team now? Like since Conte's come in, what have they done? Anything? Yeah. I think the writing's on the wall there for both of them.
Yeah.
They have to play.
But Ndombele's proven he can't be trusted. He just doesn't want to be there. Like he just doesn't want to be here. So I think Ndombele definitely won.
Hang on, Marcus. I'm going to take exception to that.
Like a nice assist, but I don't think he actually did that much against Liverpool outside.
He played all right. I thought he played all right, didn't he?
Yeah, he played all right. But again, like he's someone that he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to do the hard yards and do that week in, week out. I think with Lo Celso, he's just been injured. He's had some like decent games when people thought, we could have got some good here, but he's largely been injured. I don't know. I think the whole like COVID travel thing at the beginning was a bit of,
Lo Celso is generally a grafter.
I think there's a player there. I think the injuries is a concern.
Yeah. I think MS has just commented. If you can put it up, caller.
This one?
I think that's the trouble with Ndombele. He can't play. I know he did under Jose, but he just looks knackered after 5 minutes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Chris Waddle.
I just think that's how he looks. I don't think he genuinely is knackered. I think that's how he looks. Look, Ndombele is a great player, very talented. We can't get the best out of him. He might be better suited to another league.
Do you know what?
I don't think he's suited to like professional top level football. I think like he's a luxury player. He can pull off the tricks and do things when he wants, but like you need to do that on top of like what you actually have to do, not just as a substitute for the rest.
Similar to Dele, they wouldn't survive in a well coached squad. Like that's why they're not making it. They need to do more. It's not just flicks and tricks and little swirls every 5 minutes. You got to be on it for 90 minutes, 95 minutes, and he's clearly not. And it's a shame. But I'll choose my 3. So Ndombele, cheers, mate. Doherty and Dele. They're my 3. Or I think waiting yours.
Mine. Harry Winks. You like that, don't you, Paul? Harry Winks. I'd get rid of Ndombele if the right offer came in, which it won't. So he'll still be there. I think he's got 4 years left on a £200,000 a week deal, actually. So
what's in Daniel Levy's mind, caller, is the right offer for Ndombele?
Yeah, absolutely. So
what's the number?
There is no number. It'll be someone to take him on loan and take his wages. That'll be the answer, because you're in a COVID climate. No one's going to pay what we want for him right now. That's the reality.
It'll be half the wages. It won't be his full wages. It'll be half the wages.
Yeah,
It's weird
whatever.
it seems like the cast of Stranger Things have come into my living room, so apologies for the background noise here.
You get 100k in the kitty a week. That's all right, isn't it? It's a good player you can buy. Anyway, so end of melee. Harry Winks, Joe Roden.
Brilliant, guys. We've been going now
Property
for
would be a bonus, by the way.
Dirty as a bonus, a get rid bonus.
Bonus ball, yeah. Get rid bonus.
All right, guys. It's the noise is cranking up here. That my room seems full of children. It's like the Goonies and Stranger Things have come together and are plotting a big excavation tour to find a pirate ship. So I'm going to call it a night. Davo, thanks for joining, mate.
Pleasure. Happy New Year.
Marcus, great day to have you on, mate. Thanks for coming on. Hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been really great to be on it, and yeah, thanks for everything you guys do. I really enjoyed the pod over the last few years. Definitely been the most positive thing about Spurs, I think, in the last 2-3 years, really.
Blimey. Blimey.
Probably.
We're not talking about you, Dave. We're not talking about you.
Do you really listen?
What?
John, mate, thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys, for having us. We will finish the 2021 review on the next pod, won't we? I think, Caller.
Absolutely.
And Caller, thanks for joining, mate.
Lovely to pop by.
And do watch out for the next YouTube video, which will be out. When will it be out, Caller? After the Watford game?
Monday. Mondays and Fridays. Oh, I just kicked my camera. Mondays and Fridays are our usual spots. 9 p.m. Monday, 9 p.m. Friday. Do subscribe if you haven't already and hit the like button. Yeah, we'll be back Monday.
Top stuff. And listen out for the pod as well. The pod will be out after the Watford game. Do listen out for the pod that we did after the Southampton game as well. Jeez, my kids make so much noise. And I was also on the Brazilian Shirt Name podcast with Dr. Nadabayo and Tim Vickery, reliving the 1999 Worthington Cup final. So if you're up for some torture, do listen out for that. It's also to raise funds for the Favela Food Fund that I'm working with out here in Brazil. I've made my donation today. Loads of people made a donation afterwards. We'll be putting it on our socials. So if you can spare a few quid to help poor people from the favela in Rio, the Morro do Garoa favela, please do. And thank you for your support and for listening and watching. And as ever, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs.